Please now we're going to continue with another talk. The title is the X System, a Csound-based augmentation of hexaphonic guitar signal. I introduce you Tobias Bercu. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mic check. Thank you guys for coming. It means a lot to me to be here, and it's been wonderful to see everything that you've been working on and composing. And I'm happy to be up here now and be sharing my work with you. So I'll be presenting the Hex system, which is essentially a guitar pedal that I've been designing based around a Raspberry Pi running Csound for doing real-time audio effects. So just a quick overview of what I'll be talking about. I'm going to talk about the impetus for this project, why I'm doing this, and what has inspired me to build this. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the different components that comprise the system. And I was planning to do a live demonstration. I have everything here with me in Cagli, but tragically, as I was doing a final systems check this morning, smoke started rising from my sound card, and there was some issues with intermittent sound card detection. When the sound card was detected, there was this very strange distortion that was not coming from Csound that you guys would probably honestly enjoy, but I decided that it would be better just to show you a few videos to help you get a grip on what the system does. So after the videos, which will take the place of this live demo, I'll do a technical tour, and I'll be going more into detail about how I built this and more into detail about, to the best of my knowledge, what is going on in this system. So, what led me to design this guitar processor? So I started building this on the Pi in my spring semester at Berkeley under the mentorship of Dr. Boulanger, but one semester prior, I had, for whatever reason, gotten the idea into my head that it would be cool to have a guitar arpeggiator where you play a chord and the notes are iterated in a sequence, basically an envelope sequencer for the strings that are active in a given chord. So I purchased a hexaphonic pickup, which, if anyone doesn't know, this is a pickup that actually has 6 individual discrete pickups, one for each string, and made a max patch using that to sort of sketch out this idea. And that project went successfully. However, it took a lot of setup because I had my guitar, my laptop, a big interface because I needed an interface with at least 6 channels of audio in, and I also had a pretty large MIDI controller where I was sending all my control messages from. So just setting up the device took at least as much space as I have up here, and took about 15 or 20 minutes. And so I felt that this was a little bit cumbersome. So after finishing that max patch, I sort of started thinking that I wanted to make this device smaller, make it as small as possible, and as compact as possible, something that you can really just plug into and play. So on the one hand, I had this desire for just a small and portable device. But also, after using the Hex pickup to design this arpeggiator, I started thinking, what other new effects could I possibly innovate? So those sort of twin desires to build something small and portable and to work on building new effects those twin desires have been the driving forces of this project. And they don't exactly play nicely together because a lot of these effects that I was prototyping are pretty CPU demanding. So, and since I was using a Raspberry Pi, which has a much more limited CPU than the laptop, this presented some difficulties. So I was basically just trying to build this nice small portable device. And also, while I was thinking about this and while I was learning Csound and building this, also in my subconscious, I knew that I would be graduating soon and be pretty much completely untethered without any responsibilities and without too much of a plan for what to do next. And so I think perhaps some of the wandering minstrels of American lore came to mind. I was thinking I really wanted to be able to travel freely with my guitar with the augmentation of this system and have something that you could really just throw into a passing open boxcar with ease. So, a quick rundown of the system. I have a Raspberry Pi 4B running Csound. I have the Hexaphonic pickup, which I've just explained. I have a sound card for the Pi that has 6 channels of audio rate input, which is necessary for this project. And there's also all of this goes into an enclosure with some foot switches on top. So I also used an Arduino to digitize these foot switch voltages, convert them to MIDI, and send that MIDI data through a USB cable to the Pi. The other part of the user interface is my smartphone, which actually clips onto the guitar itself, and from there I'm sending control signals over open sound control. So here's just a visual representation of all that. The signal starts at my hex pickup, which is actually 6 piezo crystals that are embedded in these saddles here. It's called the GraphTech Ghost system. I have a splitter cable to interface between the 13-pin cable that is the output of this hex pickup and these 6 RCA inputs from my ADC. You have the Pi, which goes to the DAC and the speaker, and down here you can see just the foot switches, the Arduino, and the smartphone, which comprise the user interface. So, I'm just going to show you a quick video to give you an idea of what the system sounds like. This video was made about 3 or 4 months ago, so it's not super current, but it should give you an idea. Oh, and also there are a few backing tracks in here, just some drums and bass that I threw in to flesh things out a little bit. So those sounds are not coming from this system, but everything else you will hear comes from this hex system. And what you'll first hear is just some reverb going into a ring modulator. The next effect that sort of comes in is a pitch shifter with a little discrete wiggle happening for each string. And then at the end you'll hear the arpeggiator. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of what this system can do. So now I'm just going to go into a little more detail about the different components of the system and what I had to do to get them to work together. So as I said, or as I think I said, my hex pickup is made by this company called GraphTech, and what you do is you order a kit that is sized to the spacing of your guitar. They send you these replacement saddles that have piezo crystals infused into them, and these here connect to a little preamp that actually is just a very small chip. You can just sort of slip it into the backplate of the guitar, and then you have to mount a 13-pin socket as an output jack. And that feeds your 6 strings out into one of these 13-pin DIN cables. Now normally this type of cable is used with a guitar synth box, such as the Roland GR55 or an Axon or something like this. So this is where the 13-pin cable would plug in, and then within this box the audio is analyzed and replaced with the synth. So what I needed to do was build a breakout cable that could grab this audio, separate it out into 6 discrete cables, and also send power upstream to power the pickups. So fortunately, I got in touch with a person named Bill Bax who builds these breakout cables as a business, and he was sort of able to walk me through what I needed to do to solder and put this little breakout splitter cable, power cable, together. So with the splitter cable complete, the signal can be fed into the ADC of this audio injector octo sound card. Now I was pretty excited to discover this sound card. I think it was released about 2 years ago, so it's quite new. It was one of the only ones that I saw that actually had 6 channels of audio rate input, so it was super important to this project to use this particular sound card. And I sort of have a love-hate relationship with this sound card because while it has allowed me to make this device, I think just it's still in development, and it doesn't interface well with the Pi. It has, even when it's working properly, it has issues with intermittent detection and things like this. So it's been a little bit of a two-edged sword. And it's called the Octo because it has these 8 channels of output here, which could be an interesting thing to explore in the future, although the way it's set up now, I just have a mono output coming out of here. Right, so I also found just a patch for the Arduino Uno that pretty much just makes it into a MIDI controller. So it was pretty simple to load that on there, hook it up to these foot switches. The more challenging part was getting this MIDI to register with the Pi on boot, which I'll discuss in a moment. This is sort of just a screenshot of what I'm looking at in my GUI, which sort of flips onto the guitar like so, for some tactile control. And though it lacks some of the physical response of a real controller, the benefit of using the smartphone is that I can have one page for each of my effects and fit a large number of controls in a very small space. So, this script, this shell script, is one that I sort of compiled to run and register with the Pi to run on boot, so that during a headless boot, everything that needs to happen happens, and all the necessary ingredients of the system can communicate and feed controlled data to the Pi and so on. So just to go over this quickly, these first 6 lines here I found on the audio injector octo GitHub issues page, someone posted these as a fix because a lot of people have had this intermittent detection issue. So this pretty much just restarts the sound card once the Pi powers up. And with these lines here, there is pretty much a 100% detection rate. And then these next 3 lines here are responsible for creating a virtual MIDI port to receive the MIDI control from the Arduino, and this is just patching that into ALSA's MIDI through port so that I can get it into Csound. And then these are my command line flags here. It's using a pretty large buffer size just because of the CPU challenge. One thing to note, I had to use port audio callback. The other real-time audio modules didn't give me any sound from this sound card, but fortunately this one did. And then I guess the other thing to mention here is I was trying to do some multi-core processing with this J3 here. And these things are just commented out because at the time I took this screenshot, I didn't want Csound to start on boot. I was just doing some troubleshooting. So, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, I was trying to come up with some other sort of innovative new guitar effects, and I was prototyping these on my laptop. The ultimate goal of this project is to get these things to run on the Pi. But for now, I'll just show you a quick video of them taken from running them on the laptop. And this is sort of an indicator of the trajectory of where I plan to take this project next. So this is just a little convolution engine where I was loading in some of my own impulse responses. That's a gutter pipe and a rain stick. And then I was also planning to make a guitar synth as part of this box. So I'm just using the pitch AMDF opcode to track pitch and amplitude of each string, and then using that to control a possil. It's quite simple, but then this patch here actually runs on the Pi, but if you turn it off and then turn it back on again, like an effect, it then crashes. So this one is close, I think, probably the closest. I was also trying to make this glissando engine, and this one I actually sketched out in pure data. And then also have plans to have a granulation of my live input. This is just using the grain opcode and a destructively recorded buffer. So those are some goals as I move forward with this project. Which leads me to the topic of optimization, because I think for these things to function properly, I'm going to have to learn how to really optimize the Raspberry Pi. These are just some things that came to mind on that subject. Perhaps my sound card requires a certain hardware buffer size or something like that, and this is what's causing the issues with the sound card. Also, an important next step is to switch to a light distribution of Raspbian as opposed to a desktop version, which I've been using so far. Possibly look into building my own kernel and doing some overclocking. And And also possibly keeping the channels discrete and having 6 outputs from this device as opposed to summing the channels within the CSD. Just a conversation that I had with Alex Hoffman a couple days ago. We were thinking this would possibly make multi-threading work a little bit better. So yeah, that's it. I'll be taking questions if you have any.
Thank you, Tobias Bercu. Question?